got Ja Rule. No, wrong one. Wrong one.
Well,
kicking around, Mike trying to find Harlock.
Hello, everyone.
Some people called it Herlock.
So that's the whole thing. Hello, world. So the reason for that is that there was like a licensing dispute when folks were releasing one of the Harlock things. So they basically said, hey, if we just call it Herlock, are we cool? And they're like, we're cool. So and it was sort of it was kind of a gentleman's agreement of saying, look, like we would have to come after you copyright-wise. And they're like,
right.
So this let everyone be happy,
Yeah, all the places I found it said Herlock, it was the same thing. I'm like, translation issue? How hard is it to translate Harlock?
Because we were talking about Lupin earlier, and same thing happened with Lupin. There's a Lupin the Third release as an anime over here for the same reason, that there was a licensing thing. So they called it, this is Lupin the Third, and it just kind of skirts around that so nobody would get upset.
It's RuPaul the Third.
Yeah. I want to see that anime.
What? Master Drag Thief.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of which, I did finish Toshio Okada's analysis of Cagliostro, and oh my gosh, he revealed all sorts of details and information and background to that movie that gives it so much context, so many layers around like the upper Cagliostro family versus the lower Cagliostro family, and what the Count was trying to do with Clarice and manipulation and all sorts of things going on. It's fascinating.
Nice. So way beyond what we could have picked up from watching.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Well, and this is the guy who...
I hate when people like point out stuff that like should have been obvious, and then you're just kind of like, oh.
Well, no, because this is the guy who comes on screen, and behind him he has a scale model of the Castle of Cagliostro.
Ooh.
He has the gyrocopter model. Yeah, and then he pulls out like Lupin's card. Like it's just you're that guy.
Oh, wow. Dang.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I think at some point he says, "I'll have to show you."
I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, at some point he says, "This is one of several scale models of the Castle Cagliostro I own." It's like, wow.
My basement is filled with castles.
He does a video on Castle in the Sky, the Ghibli film, and I just saw like a thumbnail of it, and he also has like a yay big replica of the ship that they fly in, like huge replica, and so he goes in and points out all the he's a fan, otaku of the old school,
Yeah.
Wow.
Now the question is it scratch built?
That's a question.
Because some of those, some model kits, they're big, but they're not like super, super giant big.
Mm-hmm. I would not put it past them. So we are here to talk about Captain Harlock, Arcadia of My Youth. So I want to ask you guys, first off, what has been your exposure to Captain Harlock up to this point, because it's sort of an origin story, so it's fairly significant.
I've seen bits and pieces of the series.
Okay.
And again, this is a kind of an Otakon thing, where sometimes I would, duck into the one to the one video room that would have Captain Harlock. Yeah, I remember Captain Harlock. Oh, I'll go in here and watch it. What was it? The Train 999?
Galaxy Express 39. Yep.
Yeah, Galaxy Express. It's been years since I've seen that, but I've seen that a couple times. But I've never, and I think I've seen Arcadia of My Youth. Some clips. Okay. I don't think I've seen the whole thing. I thought I had, but when I watched it, I was just like, no, I didn't see this. This wonderfully uplifting.
Oh, it's a fun ride.
Pastel colored.
It's basically K-On! Pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah.
I would never think to ever describe Captain Harlock, this movie, as basically K-On! Although it did have some beautiful incidental music.
It does.
I love the classical pieces that they threw in with it, but
absolutely.
not K-On!
No. So John, what's been your exposure?
I think it was after we had a discussion at one of the Star Cities about Japanese military equipment and the ethos behind everybody's on the defense and they don't really attack too much, or they're something is going on that forces their hand. It's not they're not the ones that are aggressors. And so having watched Yamato before, I went back and I started the TV series. I made it 7 episodes in, and then I put it on hold, and I no idea when I put it on hold. It had to have been several years ago. So I started to be familiar with it. I then watched a documentary on Yamato that had mentioned that they initially planned for Harlock to be on the Yamato crew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It was like he was...
I vaguely remember that.
It was like he was supposed to be one of like the upper sort of crewmen, not the captain of the Yamato, but like the second in command kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I was just like, holy, really? Which makes total sense when you watch any of the Yamato, where they typically show the ship flying away from you with the engines going, and it arcs to the right or it arcs to the left, and everything in Harlock arcs to the right or arcs to the left. And it's like your character models for both series are almost indistinguishable. I mean, the long willowy women, the kind of blocky guys, and it's like, okay, this is perfectly in its time period. So I've seen those bits. Over the years before that, I had seen snippets. Like people's kind of bringing up Harlock and showing the Arcadia and talking about its connection to Yamato. So same kind of thing like Steve, where it's like pieces, parts here and there.
Gotcha. I've seen. I went back and I watched. I think the first Harlock thing I saw was probably the Ring of the Nibelung, which is an OVA that adapts. It is basically a mashup of Captain Harlock and Wagner's Ring Cycle.
Interesting.
And I was very interested. So I checked that out, and it's fun.
Was it good? It's fun, but was it good?
It was good, but it's very different. Because it's literally space opera.
I was just going to say, speaking as someone who has actually worked in actual opera, The Rings is just like this mammoth thing that goes on. Like, you can't do it in one night. It's done in 3 different performances. And when you sit, I'm like going, an 9-hour anime? What?
Well, and it's actually one of the problems, but that's a whole nother thing. But I enjoyed it very much. It was just it was actually turned out to be a good introduction to sort of the Leiji Matsumoto verse, which we'll get to in a second, because it's not like very closely tied in plot-wise to other stories. Characters show up, but it's not like, oh, we're referencing this thing that happened back in Harlock 78 or, Galaxy Express, what have you. Then I went back and I did watch the original Harlock TV series. I've seen Galaxy Express, chunks of it. The TV series, which is like 120 episodes or something, so, not all of them.
It's a lot.
Yep. And so the other thing I want to point out is this is part of the Matsumoto verse. Leiji Matsumoto does he's a mangaka. He's done tons of manga, and he's famous for the fact that all of his stuff kind of loosely connects within all this space opera stuff. So he reuses characters, reuses settings, and references things in past manga, but there's no like tight chronology, right? It's more, I'm going to reuse these characters, I'm going to tell another story in there. I might include elements. I might completely rewrite history, which whatever serves the story. So yeah, it's kind of weird. Arcadia of My Youth, in contrast, is very much an origin story for Harlock and all the characters. You get to see a lot of folks sort of come together, and oddly, it's also an origin story for the characters in the movie because you get flashbacks and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this came out. So Arcadia of My Youth came out in '82, if I have my numbers right. So the Harlock TV series had been out for a couple of years. It was quite popular, and there was obviously a drop for that, for a big budget movie. And I love how the big Harlock movie opens with a fighter plane flying through
a biplane.
A biplane.
Yes. Like
Papua New Guinea. Was it Papua New Guinea?
Yeah, I thought there was an odd kind of place choice for
Yeah.
that. It's like, wow,
I mean,
so are you referencing the Kokoda Trail and like the furthest extent of the Japanese Empire in World War II was Papua New Guinea? He's talking about trying to get to Rabaul, which was a large naval air station in New Guinea. Like,
Well, actually, what I took from it was that the family is German. The Harlock family is German, and the Germans did have colonies in the Pacific during World War I. And so, but I wasn't, and they did have like a naval fleet out there, not much of one, but they had a fleet out there, and their holdings was very, very small. And so I was like, wow, they are referencing a really obscure German part of history in this. And, I was like, and because, we were talking about, how there's that connection between Harlock and Toshiro, how they make that friendship. And I was like, oh, okay, this must be the part that they're talking about. And it isn't. No. And, it's the great grandfather, he goes through that whole thing, like almost poem, Arcadia of My Youth, wanting to surpass the mountain and the laughing witch and all that stuff. And I thought, in and of itself, just if you cut that right out of the movie, and in and of itself is actually a pretty compelling little story.
Yeah,
actually,
it's
man versus mountain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think to your point, we were talking earlier about old school otaku. I think this was very much setting up the fact that, this is not going to be a spaceships and laser guns story. This is going to be about history. Pay attention, which it very much does.
Well, and the thing that kind of made me laugh is my ex's grandfather flew the hump in the China-Burma-India theater. So he flew back and forth across the Himalayas into China and back and forth to India. Okay. And
Jesus,
he had passed the few months after we started dating. So she told me some of his stories, and there they are in like a C-36 Waco, I think. So it's not the C-47, but they're, is it a Waco? I don't remember. Dakota? But they were having to dodge mountains because they couldn't get a fully loaded plane up over the mountains. So they had to fly through certain passes to work their way into Western China.
Right, yeah.
And I'm looking at this and thinking, they had to go the way they had to go because there was no other way to go. This dude, the Stanley Mountain Range, your option, you fly along the coast. That's how you get around the Stanley Mountain Range. You fly around the coast. So here we've got Phantom Harlock deciding that his machismo moment is to conquer the mountain with his plane. Where it's like, listen, dum dum, just go round it. You got a full tank of fuel. You've told us this much. Go round.
Yeah.
But the witch was mocking him.
That's an excuse.
If I hadn't turned my head and. Gonna dump all my fuel precious in just 10 minutes to accomplish. I mean, it was just like this one big poem, and at the end of it, I expected to see a bunch of men sitting around with brandy sniffers and going, "Yeah, that's quite story, quite a good story."
Yeah, Hemingway sitting there. Oh, you're so much more manly than me.
Luxury. But yeah, no, and I think that also gets though very much to the theme of the film, because I think he is being kind of foolhardy, and he is just kind of pushing forward despite common sense, which is very much what everyone else does in this movie.
Yeah.
Because this is not a comedy. Gosh.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was a laugh riot, I thought.
Well, I will say this much. There were moments in this where, in the average later style film, so this is 1982, this is 1982 concepts and moment in time. Later on, you would have heroic charge in Devil May Care. Sort of like Harlock's grandfather, or I guess it's 1,000 years later, so his great grandfather. He's charging against the Stanley Witch like a lunatic. And yet, when things are going really, really bad and the threats are down, if you don't come back, this is going to happen. What does Harlock do? He just stands there and coldly stares into space, because the logical, rational, and survivable thing to do is to not go. And it's like, oh, I applauded that moment. I'm like, yes, thank you.
Yep.
I'm not just going to crash dive the ship into the place and be like, we got to save that person and kill everybody.
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is one of the interesting things about the movie is, it opens, after that whole sequence, with Harlock endangering the lives of a bunch of civilians by landing his ship such that it can't be salvaged or can't be really used. But this is very much a movie about him growing up, about him making more mature decisions over the course of life and realizing, I need to think ahead. I need to look at the bigger picture, But at the same time,
I thought what I was going to say is I thought that as that sequence was going where he's crashing the ship, doing the 1,000-yard stare of like, screw it all, I'm going to kill everybody just to make a point. There were moments, or I think 4 moments, where his hand goes towards his sidearm.
Yep.
And and I'm like going, is he? Now, obviously, it's not going to happen because it's the beginning of the movie. But is he thinking about killing himself?
Yeah.
Is he thinking about killing himself? And then when they come onto the bridge, is he thinking about killing them?
Yeah.
What is it? Where is he going with all of this?
And when Zal comes in, that's exactly when he reached for the gun. I thought it was going to be the not smart hero moment, where it's pull the gun out, just blaze away, and then see, did I live? But what's he do?
After it's going.
Yeah, I don't have that many holes in me. I won. But he does. That is, even in just that short span of time, we see that he's made a rational adult decision. He just lets it go.
Yeah.
He just hands off the gun. We'll just see how things go.
And you're absolutely right. It's one of the things I like about this movie is that Harlock is not a traditional boys action hero. He's a much more thoughtful person, which provides a very nice contrast to what we're used to in movies like this. And it's also interesting comparing this to like the films we've been watching up to this point, which have been very much adventure movies. He is not Horace. He is not Lupin. He just is much more thoughtful, introverted person. In this very interesting world, because in the Harlock TV series, as far as I can recall, there is no mention whatsoever that Earth had been taken over by an alien race like 3 years before.
Yeah.
They just kind of invented it for the movie. But they're living in war, and they're living in the aftermath of war.
The occupied area, which I love the fact when he crashes the ship, they're not the Illuminati, but the whatever their name is, that they're like, oh, perhaps he wouldn't have had such a hard time if the landing pad hadn't been in terrible condition.
Right.
And you notice looking around, it's like, for an occupation force that's conquered Earth, their facilities are junk.
Yeah.
There's like bits and pieces of them broken off. There's like, kind of rubbish around. It's like, okay, we know there's an active resistance, but you guys don't even make the effort to make the conquering, army facilities in decent shape. They're just sort of junky and left to rot.
Which is brilliant foreshadowing, I think, for later in the movie where you realize, oh, they're not going to be here long.
Yeah.
Yeah. No point putting the place up if it's not going to be here in a few years.
Which is interesting that they never mentioned exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? In other series, it's like, oh, somebody's going to show up to Earth because we have water, because we have air, because we have gold, because we have people, whatever.
Yeah.
They show up for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is an interesting movie of Harlock.
Yeah.
Not why are the aliens here? Not why did this happen? Not really generally any of the greater geopolitical aspects of the entirety of the universe. No, it's about Harlock.
Mm-hmm.
And developing Harlock as his character.
And it's very much kind of, the occupied's perspective, where, they come in, I don't know why you're here. I don't, that's not actually relevant to me, what your goals are. You just happen to be the boot stomping on my face. It's about what you do as a result of them attacking, more than, oh, they were here for water. Well, that changes. No, it doesn't change anything at all. It's very interesting. And I do really like that. Then he meets Totoro, his longtime companion.
His 1,000-year-old buddy.
Yeah, exactly. And so, FYI, for those curious, in the Harlock TV series, Totoro is the soul of the Arcadia.
Yes,
he is the Arcadia, in some very mystical way. And so one of the fun things about this is actually seeing them together, seeing that interaction between these people, where that's kind of one of the central tragedies of Harlock is, my best friend is gone. This is all I have left of him.
Well, the accidental watching of that 30-minute movie, they actually cover the Arcadia doing stuff by itself.
Wow.
Like they're leaving Earth and the ship turns around and they're like, the helm's not, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it lands and it's just like, oh, what? And he says, oh, that's his spirit. And you see the central core computer and it's got like a couple of light up screens. And then there's this band around the middle of it that's like, and this light comes up on the back and it's like, I got it. So that's the soul of the ship doing something. Cool.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
I'm following.
Exactly.
Confused at the time.
Yeah.
It was the wrong movie, but I was following. I got it.
Yeah. And this lovely Matsumoto mechanical design. I just love all of his gears and dials and gauges. But then we go back to the big, and I'll be honest, when I was watching this the first time, and we cut back again to World War II, I'm like, is this going to be a science fiction movie at all? Or is it just going to be, 80% World War II? But it turns out to be this very interesting interlude, partly because, he, as you mentioned, he's German. And Totoro's Japanese.
Part of a pirate knight family.
Right.
I'm not really aware of what that is, but
And in fairness, and this is actually something I did look up. At one point, Phantom Harlock, Totoro asks him why he's fighting, and he says something like, "I'm paying off a debt." It was common for various noble families around the former Austro-Hungarian Empire and so forth to essentially say, "Hey, I'm going to send my son as a fighter pilot so that we don't have to be involved in the war." And so that our duchy can just be isolated. So the implication is he agreed to do this so that his family and their little, chunk of Europe don't have to be drawn into the conflict. Which I think might be there kind of to throw a bone to the viewer of going, is he a Nazi? No, not really. Okay, fine.
No.
He's just a German Japanese guy.
Yeah. Sure.
We'll agree to that.
Whatever makes everyone happy. Now, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about this this rangefinder this sort of focal lens.
The gun sight.
The gun sight, yeah. Because it struck me as, in some ways, a very otaku thing of like fetishizing this bit of technology, and really focusing on a kind of arcane element of fighter plane technology and how cool that is. But I never quite understood why it was such a central role in the film, other than obviously it sets things up. But like why they chose that. Did you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, he addresses the actual sight as being like this critical thing to himself. So I took that to be where Toshiro, like, he gets the sight, and obviously it carries down through history, but he builds that style of sight into the Arcadia. So it's that sort of, okay, I know that Harlock's got this thing. He's got this, you know, and a lot of pilots had, you know, various superstitions. Put a picture of somebody in there that you love as protection, or carry a, you know, St. John's medal or something like that. You know, it's very superstitious piece of people when you're fighting for your death. Fighting to not get killed, I should say. And his fetish was that gun sight. That gun sight never did him wrong. That gun sight was everything that he needed. It was the soul of his plane. So that, you know, that's where the fetish comes in. That's why it gets, you know, incorporated into the ship then that Harlock, the descendant, gets to fly. And then it makes it the original gun sight makes an appearance again. Wow.
Well, that's for me. That was the suspension of disbelief. I'm like, 1,000-year-old guns. Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay,
we're just gonna hook it into the spaceship. Like, oh, that'll work good.
Yeah, perfect. Where did we keep this entire time? Anyway,
if this thing's powered, did you check for voltage, like regularity? How's it doing this?
Right. It's his first 50-year, checkup, see if it's working. But I think for me, what it was that it was actually not so much as more to your point, John. I think not so much the technology of itself, as it is that it represented something that they both wanted, which was, why don't we use what we have to do something better than, as they said, this stupid war? Why don't we use this gun sight for something better? Because that's actually what Toshiro in World War II was working on from Japan. The reason why he was there was to build better equipment. And so they were and that's actually something that happened in World War II, was that the Japanese and the Germans were trading tech on a certain level, and knowledge and know-how. To a certain degree, not totally, but to a certain degree.
Well, to the limited number of U-boats that could make it across the entire globe to the other side.
Right, yeah. And so I think it wasn't so much that the sight, like when Harlock gave up the sight, to him it was his luck. You know, this is what it is. And so he gives it to Toshiro, and he says, use this as a way to further our goal somehow. And so I think it became more simple. So when they brought it back out, towards the end, it goes, oh, the sight's been damaged. I'm thinking, okay, yes, we've abandoned the concept of all physics in this anime at this point.
Steve? The fluttering flag in space was not a suspension of disbelief moment for you? There's wind in space, right?
And the whole back of Harlock's, the Arcadia, of just being like a galleon, Spanish galleon.
Literally.
Anyway, so he goes, oh, here's this thing that I've been keeping for 1,000 years. This will work, and it does, because it's something that Toshiro has been making, that probably his family, his ancestors have been making since day one, since he was able to escape onto the onto the Switzerland side of that lake, or river.
Yeah. And I
like during the escape moment that Harlock keeps getting hit by French resistance on the. So I thought Harlock was in the German side. Why is French resistance on the other side of Switzerland in southern Germany? Don't know. Didn't ask that question at the time, at least. Yeah. But he walks back towards the plane, and they're shooting at him. It's like, is the indication there that that's oh, that's how my ancestor died. Yours went off to Switzerland in watchmakers to create better technology, and my ancestor walked back towards the plane and got killed.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, that seemed kind of like what it was going to be.
Totally. Yeah, and Steve, I love your insight about the symbolism of that little bit of tech, because I think that that is what the Arcadia becomes, very much so. It is this potent warship, but it's not there to fight a war.
Right.
It's there to raise a flag or something very different. Which is interesting because a lot of the middle of the movie is very much about this question of what are we going to do? We are this conquered people. Harlock clearly wants to do something, but there's no real solution to what's going on. And I do love the fact that really the ultimately their next step is to help somebody else, and to sort of all come together as a group, with the arrival of Emeraldus, which is very interesting. Anyone who's not familiar with this character, giant space blimp appears out of nowhere, and
with a
pirate
boat
lady
glued on the bottom.
on the bottom.
I know,
This, and then this very regal looking Harlock woman shows up.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is going on? And I actually have the Emeraldus manga. It's amazing, because Emeraldus is a very unusual character in the Matsumoto-verse. But it's clearly one of those things. And when I rewatched it again, because it's been so long since I watched it, that ship came up and I was like, oh, holy,
The space blimp.
Yeah. But the first time I was like, okay, I guess.
Interesting choice of vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also like the fact that, and again, it's kind of interesting from the perspective. Okay, so let's just put this out there. Matsumoto's stories from Yamato, which he was involved in, but not, he didn't invent every single bit. All the other stuff tend to be very male focused. Tend to be very male characters, very few female characters around. When they're there, they're generally very much side characters, kind of doing their thing. Emeraldus is an exception, but I think it's also interesting in this movie, for being this origin story, it's not Emeraldus' origin story.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Harlock comes along, she's there, and she's guiding Harlock. She's very much the wiser, older figure. And I thought it was just kind of a neat way of introducing that character, and not just having her, oh, I should be a pirate someday,
I'll escape Earth, and my first choice will be piracy.
Exactly, yes.
Well, my job opportunities are fairly limited.
Yeah, she has a whole origin story.
I'll go up to Tokarga.
There we are.
I'll go work there. Oh, that doesn't work out either.
No. So
that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Did anybody else get creeped out when the old guy's like, "Hey, Maria is the last Tokarga girl. So now we can't ever have any children." And I'm thinking, dude, she was 5. And you're already 60. You're really freaking me out here with this.
Yeah.
That totally sideswiped me. I was just because it just comes out.
Yeah.
Just literally, it just comes out in a conversation where, and beforehand, there's this, when they're on the plane, and he goes, I thought everyone was dead, and he sees all these guys, and they hug and everything, and you think everything's going to be okay, and you're going to find more people on this planet, and, winds up to being this crushed little child underneath the rubble.
Yeah.
And you pull
one
out,
little girl and 4 dudes.
4 dudes, right.
The whole planet.
And you're just that, and of course, that's when you discover what's going to happen to Earth is pretty much this.
Yeah.
And so, but they, so they're on the ship, and the little girl dies, and it's just, and again, I'm just gonna say it, a pathetic, sad little death, and it's, it is what it is. And then they're standing in the hallway, and this was a clip that I had seen before. I remember seeing, because I was much younger and I didn't quite understand what I was watching. And he says to the other guys, he goes, "Remember, Harlock tried to help us out, and everyone's going to be doomed if we don't help him out." And well, we got nothing else to live for because the little 5-year-old child that we're thinking about in a weird, creepy way of repopulating our species with is dead, and so we're going to help Harlock out. And at first you're like going, "Oh, that's so sad. It's the last one." So they're going to do their best to, further the cause for Earth. And then you realize, they're like, ship makes it through the whole 9 yards, and you're just like going, okay. And they're like going looking for them, and then they open the door, and you just see the guy's helmet and his little tippy little. And
I love the physics.
And the door is open.
The physics of and it's just like you guys are standing there looking at the sun. It's like
burning space.
I know. Right? It's like super heated, and you're just like, wow, look, the airlock's open. Like, as opposed to being incinerated instantly, or explosive decompression. Like they open up the inner doors and sucks you all out, which we know does happen because in the fight with Zeta.
That's right, it does. Yeah,
they hit. The Arcadia hits his ship at one point, pops the hull, and you see people sucked out. So that made me think back to the burning sun thing, and I'm like, wow, what went wrong here?
So in fairness, I believe it has been established in universe that they have force fields essentially over like these.
They never said anything.
They do not. Yes, that is very true. But I you're right, and I think it's interesting also because that speech seems shocking in the moment and out of place, and then everything after that feels weird because suddenly they're escaping. Everything's fine. Like, why were they able to get out of here? This doesn't make any sense. Did they just write that in? And then you go back and I kind of think that they were deliberately sort of surprising you with that dialogue to sort of pull your attention to that moment, to say, we're going to introduce this uncomfortable element of the whole storyline, because that would be kind of, a thing that not only for the audience but also for him to bring to his crew to say, hey, look, this just happened. Like, this is the situation we're in. Pay attention. This is what we got to do right now. Because I'll be honest. I mean, there was certainly nothing in the behavior of any of the people that suggested that they were thinking along those lines, right?
Yeah.
So
did anybody do any research into hey, if you remember the film from what is the 80s or 90s, Earth Girls Are Easy?
Oh right, yeah.
Are you hooked up on this whole thing where she's got to be Togargan and that's it?
Yeah.
Can you just have marry somebody else and just have more kids? And
right.
Because
I got to be honest, I would be jerk in the group that goes, open the airlock, but I'm not gonna with you guys.
I really like Emeraldus, and I'm gonna go over with her.
Yeah,
because she seems like a really cool lady. So thanks.
Yeah,
y'all enjoy that third-degree instant burn. See ya.
But and also, you guys have seen what you guys have seen of Galaxy Express. Like, this is all over Galaxy Express of just. Doomed cultures and people dealing with the fact that we can't possibly continue from where we are, and what you do as a result of that. So it does again kind of feel a little out of place, but I think they were kind of trying to not shoehorn in, but introduce something a little heavier, because this movie isn't heavy at all.
No.
There's a moment of levity, actually.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Harlock comes back, and we have this whole thing where he's standing off with the people there. And I don't know. On the one hand, I understand where they were going with this, because, how do they not all just mow down everyone in the Arcadia immediately? And And I do appreciate the fact that they do set up the fact that I forget the name of him, but the big general leader guy, Zal. Is it
Zeta?
Zeta, thank you.
Well, Zal was the Tokargan,
Right.
Tokargan guy. Zal Onichan Dasune.
Yeah. Oh yeah, thank you.
Oh boy, nothing like finding two dead kids and a big talking bird.
Yay.
Oh, that was a fun moment.
Oh.
A crying talking bird.
Yes.
So just not repeating things. It's emotionally attached. Creepier even.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going ahead.
But yeah.
And by the way, that's the thing I would have left on the planet.
The bird.
When I've taken that, the bird, and not taking it and have it on my shoulder.
It almost looked like it didn't really have a choice. Like it just liked Harlock. It was attached to him. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
By the way, it's a parasite.
Yeah.
I will say the aliens did have, even though it's really weird for Zeta to talk about, we're going to have a samurai showdown. Where in the hell are you coming up with the history of Earth? But that's fine. You've been occupied collecting data. That's like more than 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
But they are very good on their military protocol. They let Harlock crash the ship and they don't immediately shoot him. They let him come back with the Arcadia and they don't immediately shoot him. But there seems to be a fair amount of protocol involved before the gunfights start.
Yeah.
There it is. There we go. I had to find it. No, totally. And I do appreciate the fact that they established the fact that that Zeta respects Harlock from the beginning. And he understands where Harlock's coming from, and so is willing to kind of give him that rope.
Satisfaction.
Yeah. To say,
Well,
okay,
he lets him wander around Earth again.
Yeah.
Like when he gets back, it's like Zal, is supposed to, keep an eye on him, but Harlock just kind of wanders off to find Maya.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of wandering around. It's like, yeah, they're following him. That obviously, somebody. Harlock probably really should have thought about that beforehand. Like, they're following you. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
But that was still very generous of Zeta to let Harlock just walk around.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and then that gets into one of the things I love about a lot of these movies is there's often a lot going on, behind the scenes. Is that I'm sure if somebody questioned Zeta, he'd say, well, of course I'm going to let him walk around because he's going to lead us directly to the resistance.
To Maya.
Right, Why would I shoot a useful resource?
Well, he alludes to some of that later where he's like, we don't want to do anything that's going to cause more unrest. We want to make sure that we have things under control and that we quash the uprising and don't give it fuel. So it's like he says that later on.
Yeah, he's no fool. And then we get the big climactic space fight between Harlock and the rest. And this is always difficult in Harlock in general. In the TV series, they usually resorted to the space fighters because Harlock's universe is built on the idea of galleons and broadsides. So that is what you get in this space battle, and it's just, okay, how much of your ship can we tear down before our ship gets torn down enough?
Yeah.
And it's big and it's thrilling and it's exciting, but it's very different from a traditional, anime space battle, definitely.
Right, yeah.
Well, I mean, just the taking off of the Arcadia. It's just like, you're driving upward. You're talking about, it's the ramp angle is set. And I was thinking it was going to take off and it was going to be like some kind of side of a mountain or something. It was going to come flying out of the cave or something. No, it goes up through like a full-on 500 feet of earth and reinforced concrete and steel, and without a scratch. It doesn't pull off the radar antenna equipment. It doesn't pull off anything off the ship. I'm like, wow, what did you build this out of?
And again, in fairness,
I want to share to be my mechanic.
And in fairness, the big plot point of episode 1 of Captain Harlock is the fact that he's going up against some dangerous thing and he just rams it, and it's revealed that the Arcadia's front is indestructible, and he can just kind of like ram through ship after ship after ship after ship and just destroy them and he'll be fine. So I think it was kind of like, oh yeah, the Arcadia can do that. It's just a superpower it has. Don't think about it.
Even then, the front of the Arcadia is just so big. It's the entire deck superstructure and the bridge. So yeah, you can ram into it. It's just gonna sweep the hull entirely clear. You're like, oh, okay.
Cherry is a very strong wood.
Yeah, sure. Apparently it hardens up with all that space breeze that blows out there with the flags fluttering.
Yeah, totally. Flag of the moon, man.
Stop asking questions, damn it. Sorry, my bad.
It is interesting, but that actually gets to an interesting thing. I think a lot of modern fans can't get into movies like this, can't get into this era because of stuff like that, where it's just like, we're going to do this because it's cool. We're going to have a flying Jolly Roger in space because who doesn't want that,
Yeah.
Because honestly, the Arcadia does look cool.
Oh hell yeah!
Like when I was watching it, I was like, I'd like to have that actually.
Yeah.
I'd like that to be my.
I'd like to have that next to my Yamato.
Yeah.
Have them both side by side.
Absolutely.
And again, and I've said this, last week. Did you notice with Maya and Emeraldus that when the moment that they're captured, did you notice the Judeo-Christian thing again?
Yeah.
They don't just line him up against the wall. They freaking crucify them. I'm like, oh boy.
Yep.
It's just such interesting.
It is absolutely
prop pieces that provides to so many different animes. It's very interesting.
Oh, totally. It is very odd. I'm trying to find that in the clip because it is kind of, very much a thing.
Yeah, I mean it's not subtle.
No.
It kind of smacks you around with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
slightly.
I mean, it's almost. I'm going to say it. It's a little fan servicey,
Well, that's definitely true.
Yep.
Which is interesting because Maya isn't. Maya's like dirty, and like kind of like looks a little roughed up, but it's like, nope, Emeraldus, she's like,
oh yeah,
torn uniform.
Yeah, which leads me to believe there was a scene they cut.
That easily could be.
Because it's unlikely they would have animated that without where that was coming from.
And doesn't the second in command jerk guy, doesn't he backhand her at one point?
Oh yeah, very much.
And it's like, I would think there would be somewhere in there. Yeah, what you're saying is like there's probably a sequence in there that wasn't in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess Emeraldus is a wanted space pirate, right? Like the idea of enhanced interrogation techniques would not be surprising. Yeah. And it would be, not to suggest that I would want to see a scene like this, but it would also be, from a storytelling perspective, a way of showing Emeraldus's stoicism in the face of, physical confrontation and so forth. So,
right.
But I think this movie's already over 2 hours, and they go like, they understand. We don't have to go there.
Or you know what it could have been? Or you know what it could have been? The reason why that they were both so roughed up is because they were laughing at the facial hair of the aliens.
That is they're very fair.
All the way.
Come on.
All the way underneath that.
Yeah, Zeta has got like this crazy thing going on there. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
facial hair does not instantly make you super alien-y, but his really did.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of mutton chops in space, turns out.
Oh, yeah.
That is a very popular thing. But yeah, it's always fun going back and seeing, every era's perspective of what the future's going to look like. It's like, everything comes back again, obviously, but if that's what our future looks like, I'd be very surprised.
Well, I'm still. What in the heck is Harlock's sword? Is it a gun or is it a sword?
Yes, it is.
He has a handgun.
Yes. No, it's both
but
of those
does
things.
he fight?
Yeah.
I mean, but does he fight with it? Because it's a long barrel. He fires with it. But
but no, he also sword fights with it. Yeah, it is a sword gun. Yeah.
So how does he? If you're, I mean, traditionally with a sword, you slash somebody or you stab them. If you've got a gun barrel, it's kind of blunt at the end, and it's a barrel. So do you just bludgeon them to death?
So.
Haha, parry! Whack on the head! Ow! Damn it!
So that is part of it. I suspect that this actually goes back to a real thing in Golden Age science fiction. You do not want to fire weaponry inside a spaceship. Ballistics and lasers inside a spaceship is very bad. So you go back to hand weapons. Back in the old Lensman novellas back in the 1930s. Which is one of the first science fiction space opera things. Like, they talk about that at length. And so folks have, like, axes and swords on board ship so that when they get boarded, like, they do hand-to-hand fighting because no one dares fire off a pistol and break sensitive equipment. So I suspect the implication is when people board, there's hand-to-hand fighting. So he has the he is able to parry and able to sort of engage in melee combat if he has to, but then also has the barrel of the gun.
Shoot with his pistol
right.
if he has to. I say fireball crystal in an enclosed cabin space.
There we go.
It's decks 1 through 5 gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Oops. Sorry, my bad.
Well, and we know later on that Harlock is very willing to engage in whatever tactics are necessary to do what needs to get done.
Yes.
So that kind of stuff would not surprise me at all. But yeah, so we get the big climax of the ending, where we discover something kind of interesting about our villain. We discover he's a samurai. They use the word samurai, I'm sure, in context in Japanese. They're using it in the way we would use knight to say,
right.
Not literally like Sir Alec whatever,
right.
But and in fact, Space Runaway Ideon, like all of the aliens call themselves samurai. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait, who settled you? Anyway, but
it's a good shortcut word, I guess, to get your point across without being unnecessarily wordy.
Totally. And so he actually kind of sacrifices himself for Harlock's sake.
Yeah.
Which brings up some interesting questions about sort of what he thinks at the end. Like, is this sort of a sort of surrender, in a sense, where he realizes we did the wrong thing. And, the most noble thing for me to do is to, sacrifice myself for this other person's benefit because I don't want to support my side anymore.
Well, we also don't know. We saw Zal, who was a conquered planet, the Tokargans, and working for these guys.
Yeah.
We don't know that Zeta is necessarily pure Illuminati. I'll just call it Illuminati for the hell of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He may be from a different conquered group that has risen through the ranks to be, and arguably, if you want to, again, this is some of the geopolitical that we don't know. Mm-hmm. He is the occupation governor of a small, mostly harmless T-shirt producing planet on the spiral outer edge of the Milky Way galaxy.
Yep.
So, you know what I mean? He might not be like the super cred, pure blood guy who's going to have control of star systems. Mm-hmm. He's maybe a dude for his planet got conquered. He's risen through the ranks, being a good, loyal guy, and they say, well, here's a nice little governorship. You can just go off this little planet over here.
Yeah.
So we don't know that. That might not have been so much a sacrifice as in, you know what, I've watched other people stand up for their people, and damn it, I'm going to do the same and give a chance for the Earthlings to stand up for themselves. We don't know. None of that's terribly clear.
That's a great point.
Because it's odd. He certainly has an entire battle fleet on its way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All he has to do is buy time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
An entire battle fleet against a indestructible galleon and a blimp.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I would lay money on the battle fleet.
Yeah.
As much as I like the blimp
Pretty
and
much.
the giant floating skull. But, we did see that Zeta's ship in its broadside, which is, again, interesting the way you're keeping that broadsiding concept going when you've got turrets.
Yeah.
And, stuff on the Arcadia, and it's like... You're,
and if you're broadsiding, why did you need the sight?
yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. But that's fine. But,
Okay, space wind.
Yeah, space wind, exactly. You have to account for space wind in your firing. But he's got more than enough technology to damage the Arcadia. Zeta has the capability. The Arcadia is on fire. There are bits and pieces of it that are burning, and there's things going on. So, that space fleet coming, the Arcadia is not wholly indestructible in that respect. So, if he had just played his cards a little better and delayed and sort of flown around a little bit more, that fleet would have shown up and destroyed everybody.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, and it's very clear because we find out that the way he exploded was specifically to help out.
Cause a ripple in space or some other
magnetic
advanced thing
thing
that causes lasers to like what?
Yeah, that I will admit feels very much like a writer pulling something out of their rear end.
Oh yeah.
How do we get out of this situation? Oh, sure. The explosion created a bend in space-time. Sure.
Sure.
That just happens to float along with the Arcadia stuck to it, apparently. Okay.
I think it could be as simple as the fact that one of the things that you learn early on in a movie through Tuckman Zoll is that because Zoll was actually a former actual combatant of Harlock's in a previous battle.
Yeah.
And they talked about how well the other one fought, kind of a pleasantry exchange, and that I think kind of appealed to Zeta the entire time. I think Zeta wanted that fight the whole movie.
Oh yeah, totally.
And then at the end of it, he got his fight, and I think what happened was that Zeta lost. Harlock realized that he was outmaneuvered, outdone. Harlock is the better fighter, and he acknowledges this.
Yeah.
And in keeping with maybe some type of dual honor, dual as in DUEL.
Oh yeah.
Basically said, "You bested me, so I owe you a prize. And your prize is that I'm going to make sure you get out of here."
Yeah.
I like that. Before the fleet comes, and then you're going to do whatever it is you're going to do. Thank you for the, it's kind of the, thank you, for the honor of fighting, and then, does what he does, and that's the space-time continuum, and everyone uses the space wind to go through the Jeffries tube to get, home.
Yeah. And then the doctor shows up.
With the
doctor shows up.
Yes. Well, is there any element of Bushido in there where since he's lost, he can't surrender anyway, so he has to honorably die?
I think there's a,
meh.
There's a flavor of that in there, definitely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. And then just to underscore how fun this movie is, when all that is done and the villain sacrifices himself so the good guy can get away, we end with a funeral. Of all these people, the very sort of Wrath of Khan funeral.
Wrath of Khan,
of all the things going out, which I just realized. Wait a minute. When did that movie come out?
That the Wrath of Khan stole it from them?
Wrath of Khan did come out in
82. Okay, yeah. So, yeah. So no, I don't think they stole it from each other. I was just wondering. But it's and it's also interesting that he buries not only Maya, but also the the remnants of a whole other world that he has nothing to do with. But it kind of gives them that final burial.
Which, by the way, he dug Zal up.
Yeah.
So when they go to see the grave, it's like you dug him up to just then shoot him in space. Why not just bury the little girl next to him?
Well, and here's the thing, and I suspect bury him where?
Earth, his last station post.
That's not. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Is that they have they can't be buried on another world. They should be buried on their own world or in space.
Sea of Stars.
The Sea of Stars, exactly. Yes. So.
Or the Genesis bomb.
Yeah,
back to life. Wait a minute.
Love that image. And then we end on Harlock being the grim space pirate that he is in the rest of the storyline. So yeah, it's one of those movies where you think, oh, okay, space pirate, space opera adventure movie. This will be fun. And there's a lot more layers to this than I thought when I first went into it. It's a really serious film.
Well, did you ever see, and this is going to sound terrible, did you ever see Bodacious Space Pirates?
I've seen pieces of it, yeah. First few episodes.
As an entire series, the name is probably the dumbest element of it.
I've heard that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it then goes on to address like some very interesting like coming of age kind of things. So as we see Harlock maturing in his responsibilities and dealing, with a lot of firsthand horror, losing Maya after he made so many attempts to get to her. And then I think there's a lot more going on with the sort of jolly space pirate buccaneer kind of thing than is necessarily just funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like even 30 years later, I think Bodacious Space Pirates was like, gosh, it has to have been almost 10 years ago. Maybe a little less. Yeah. So it's like, in that span of time, you still get this concept that it's like, well, you can actually do a little bit more with space piracy than just being a chucklehead. You can actually address some things going on. Right. And the pirate part is almost just a stage setting. Yeah. It's incidental to what's going on. Yeah. Because I never once saw him board anybody's boat and steal anything.
No.
If anything, he kind of seems to be not Gesundheit. He almost seems to be more mercenary, even though nobody's paying him that I'm aware of. Gesundheit twice.
Thank you.
One more time.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like he seems like soldier of fortune more so than just like a pirate kind of guy.
Yeah.
When he goes through that whole speech of like, we're not going to accept help, we're not going to give help, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, we're just going to be this force in the universe, whatever that force is.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting little speech. And then I'm just kind of like, so you're basically just going to fly around and just muck things up? We're going with this?
Pretty much interrupt the Empire with your flying around.
Well, that's the thing.
I mean, we've gone through. We've gone through so much death. We've seen the creepy end of an entire civilization. Our own planet is heading in that direction, and all these people around you are, through your own actions and decisions, are dying. So what's your payoff? Because for me, the one thing about this whole movie that doesn't do it for me is that there's no. It's an origin story. You're right, and I think that's really just the whole point of this movie. Is it's an origin story, but there doesn't feel to be that payoff of this is what it has made me into, and this is what I'm going to be, and this is where I'm going. You don't really get any of that. What you get is a very bitter person who is capable of great violence and not really caring who he hurts in the process. So what does that make him? What is it in the end? What does he become? And you don't really get that. And that was a frustrating point for me for this whole movie, was that we go through this whole 2 hours of just never ending. Hi, aren't I cute? I'm dead. Hi, I love your wife. I'm dead. Hi, I'm this cute person. I'm dead. Hi, there's an entire civilization that you failed to protect. They're dead. So where does this go for you? Where does
Yeah.
this
I mean, it's something I actually kind of liked about the film is that it didn't tie everything up with a neat bow at the end, it keeps Harlock as this questionable in this questionable state because he is a violent man. He is somebody that you don't necessarily want to get involved with. There's a scene in the CGI movie back in 2012, 2013, where a bunch of guys see the Arcadia come to their world, and they all, I want to join, and they all, get up there, and then they're paraded around, and the crew says, "Why do you want to join the Arcadia?" And whoever answers incorrectly is shoved off the ship that is like floating a mile above the thing to their deaths because they answered wrong. Because we're pirates.
But in all fairness, the Arcadia we know from the movie can be piloted by 4 people, which essentially is really only Totoro. Only him.
Yep.
Harlock is sort of nominally doing stuff, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody that they invited to go with them is a completely untrained person.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, in the latter stages of the broadsides and stuff, you see everybody populating the entire bridge, running things and pushing buttons, and things are going on. I'm thinking, these people were just, like, hanging out in a hole, like, acting on food credits. They're not licensed, qualified spaceship people. What is going on with it?
Because the reality would have been, Harlock would have been, hard side to port, fire the cannon, and you would have had that 4 people going,
What is that?
What
the hell is port?
Yeah.
Do you see how many buttons do you have here? Which one?
I was a telephone technician.
Buttons.
I only know how to answer them. I don't know what button you want me to push with this thing.
It's all buttons. It's buttons all the way down.
Can any of you fly a spaceship? I drove a taxi. I mean,
and in fairness, I think, and again, I think the implication is that we are so many thousands of years in the future that piloting a spaceship is like, using oars on a, on a raft. Like, everyone has some idea of how all these things work. It's kind of become genetic memory at this point. But you're absolutely right that it is kind of, kind of oddball.
Yeah. I mean, just the. Yeah, you could probably know, like, what a communication set. So, like, they would have something presumably like a cell phone or something that far in the future. But you're not going to know how to set frequencies and dial into stuff on a major ship's communications board. You know what I mean? Like,
But also, this is complaining that lightsabers make no sense. As
they
technology.
make total sense. They make total sense. As long as the light beam is like several light years long, and then it peters out as it filters into space. But it totally makes sense. But that was a very obvious moment in that. So the idea of taking people a mile up, be like, "Why do you want to join the crew?" Is a real answer? Well, because I don't know anything more than you do. You showed up on the boat too, so I might as well do anything. What skills do you have? Well, crap, you're listing for people to join. I might as well be a doctor. Just put me in charge.
Anyway, so that is Arcadia of My Youth. Did you guys have any other thoughts or, anything else?
I think that if you were to get into this universe, I would almost say hit the series first.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And do this second. I would definitely say hit the series first and do this second because it does fill in a lot of holes. And if you do enjoy this universe like Galaxy 999, it's a really good gateway to get into all that because even though we're joking around about the physics and space and stuff with this movie, Galaxy 999 is just going to blow your mind anyway. you know,
come on.
but it gives you an idea of what this is, and and it gives you, and it's nice to see something encapsulated like that, like a universe encapsulated with these 3 or 4 series, and having one movie that kind of ties it in. But I would definitely say see the series first, get into the groove of that, and fall in love with the idea of that, and then watch the movie.
Yeah.
And then because if you're watching Captain Harlock, if you heard about Captain Harlock and this universe, and then you watch this movie and you're going, why am I watching a World War I era biplane trying to go it's just not going to work for you.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's probably not the best starting point for the Harlock movie. You gotta,
And the animation is, it's definitely closer to movie quality, but it's not, light years beyond the TV show.
Right.
So if you can watch the movie, you can definitely watch the TV series. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
John, any final thoughts?
I mean, just for the bits and pieces that I've seen of Harlock, that this is not a good place to start if you're going in cold. It gave certainly a lot more background to the Harlock now that I've seen pieces, parts of, and it was a decent film.
Yeah.
Honestly, it would certainly, if it would have been 1982, I would still probably have done what I've talked to you guys about with the new anime premieres. It would have been one of those, I think I would have waited for people to see it and then asked them, be like, does it really flesh anything out? Was it genuinely entertaining to you? Or is this just so niche kind of thing into Harlock that it's just meh? You'll wait for it to come around on VHS.
Yeah. Totally agreed. Totally agree with Agent vs. Fans. I think it's, you got to figure out what's well, you don't have to figure it out, but it is helpful to figure out what's a good starting point for pretty much any universe. And I think TV series is a good place to start. The other nice thing about the TV series is that there is a plot, but it's fairly episodic in terms of structure. So you can get a good amount of story out of it and then say, okay, I'm curious where this is going, but I don't need to come back, and find out what's going on with these weird burning alien women who scream when they die. It's very odd. But yeah. The Mazone.
Is that not in the first 7 episodes?
It's fairly early on. It's not the first episode, but it's a few episodes in. An alien ship crash lands on Earth, and these warrior women come out, and when you shoot them, they burst into flame and scream.
Wow, I don't remember that. I'm going to go back to it. Wow.
Yeah, it's really odd.
That's
Yeah, it's I mean, when I say it's really odd, I mean it is intended to be very unsettling. Like it is meant to be what
the
is going
description
on,
of it works too.
Yeah.
Yes, they did a great job. So.
Yeah. Like paper.
No flesh wounds for you.
No.
Nick, you go up in flame.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow.
Well, and it gets back to this whole interesting thing about the Leishiverse and how he builds things is that like, you have this entire female culture, warrior culture, it seems, and so you have to shoot a woman, which first off, makes some of the characters in the show uncomfortable. But then when you shoot them, they scream like a banshee and just burn in flames, and it's like, like I don't want to do this anymore. Well, do you want to defend Earth?
Good about that.
Yeah. So
I have a war crimey feel about this.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah. And the Harlock universe, and I think we'll stop here. Is the idea that the Leishiverse is vast. There's a lot of Harlock and Galaxy Express and all this other stuff, and so there's a lot of different things a lot of different ways of getting in. I think Harlock is actually one of the easier ways to get into the Leishiverse, because it is space opera, piracy and so forth. And so I would advise folks to not feel intimidated at the idea of this massive thing. It's just all little bits and pieces all over the place, and wherever you get in is fine. You're not going to miss some important thing because you didn't get this came out first, but that came out afterwards, and I just watched something. But definitely TV show first. Cool. Thank you all for being involved in that. That was a lot of fun. We are going to take a quick break and then come back in about 5 minutes at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about what's been going on with us in the anime world and do the news. So we will see you all in about 5 minutes. See you then.
Sweet. Me too.
Me as well. Time I had one more time in my head by Daft Punk. Hear your volume. Hey John, can you turn on your mic?
There I am. There I am.
You are. There you are.
Yeah, I can't remember what the last one was I watched. It took me so aback by seeing the animation. I was just like, I don't know what I'm seeing here.
Hey John, do you do World War I German stuff?
No. World War II.
No, just World War II. Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, I would like to do GI at some point, but do you realize that how much an M1 Garand costs?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No.
They're I got a mortgage to pay.
No, I was just saying that if you ever looked into World War I German stuff, there's actually some really interesting things. When we were talking about the biplane and kind of stuff. But yeah, if you do World War II, that's cool.
Yes, I know some people that have World War One impressions. It's just more stuff, you know. It's more stuff.
What's the matter? You don't want a vicar sitting in the middle of your living room?
No, I'm probably pretty good without that. I'm pretty good without a Lee Enfield laying around somewhere. You know, any kind of other number of like puttees and leggings and weird stuff. I got more than enough crap. I don't need that.
Don't say it to me because I would.
Was it about 20 grand? Yeah. There was a guy that worked at our in our mechanic group, and he did. It was like the North Carolina Light Infantry Artillery sections, something or other. He had a cannon, like a full-on cannon. He sold the thing for $20,000. I'm like, what? I'm like, did you sell everything with it, like the camera or all everything else? And he's like, well, just the cannon. I didn't sell all the other gear to harness the horse and everything else. He said, I just sold the cannon and the ram and some other stuff. I'm like, what would happen if you sold everything? He's like, oh well. Thanks for clarifying that. No, thank you. And that's the one count. And it's like, can you imagine trying to find all that stuff? Not only fit yourself out, but all the stuff to fit your horse up with all that.
And hello, everyone. We are back. It is Saturday night. I almost got that wrong, but I have my tea, and we're talking anime with John and Steve. Hello, gentlemen. Good to see you all.
Hola.
Yes.
How y'all doing tonight?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Awesome.
So, how's your week been in the anime world? What you been watching? Reading?
Well, aside from the very light Arcadia of My Youth, filled with pastel colors and life and reaffirming things and
wholesome, delicious goodness.
Yeah.
It is do this, yes, and of a quality character that every young man should aspire to be.
Good.
Wow.
Captain Harlock. Aside from that, I was talking to you guys a little bit about this earlier. Came across probably actually right now as we're speaking. Season 2 is Machu Picchu. Season 2 is on Adult Swim. So if you like,
cool.
If you're an anime fan and you like being trolled by Adult Swim, that's on right now. But I saw the trailer for that, and it's amusing stoner comedy, but it's one of those things where you could probably just watch on YouTube sometime later.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been trying to catch up on Last Exile. I'm trying to catch up.
Nice.
I'm trying to catch up on. I'm girding myself up to jump into. Oh my gosh, the light novels are coming out. Why am I blinking on the name? Help me, guys. Really?
The light novels are coming out does not narrow it down.
Payon Part 2. What?
Haruhi.
Oh, Haruhi. Yeah,
Haruhi. Melancholia.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
So I'm girding myself up to get into that because I know that I'm gonna have to really focus on that and not be distracted by other things. So,
Yep.
You have to learn the new dance moves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No,
requirement for Haruhi.
okay. You want horror? You guys want horror? I'll do the dance routine
All
for
right,
you.
cool.
I'll
Sweet.
do it now. Like as if
That's
I
a
were
promise.
drunk.
Mm-hmm.
That
Best
would
way
be
to do.
fantastic.
How you got?
How about you, John?
Still watching all the new seasons of stuff. So Koma 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 Bear, Kimi no Boku no Saigo, which is the Romeo and Juliet in the future thing, the technological empire and the magical kingdom kind of thing. And I
better.
You know, it's what are you looking to get out of it?
That reaction.
And here's the thing, because we've all heard the conversation about SAO, and we know how divisive SAO is. Sword Art gets tremendous love and vitriolic hatred, and very little in between. And I'm in the in between, where it's like this show is decently animated, it's decently voice acted, the character models are attractive to the eye, and it's basically Romeo and Juliet. It's not delivering anything that's super crazy, but I am entertained by it. And I'm more than willing to. I'm entertained enough that I'm more than willing to go to the end of the series.
Gotcha.
But I would not sit down, plant the flag, and be like, "Oh my goodness," like I will do with the Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle.
Oh, okay.
You want to watch something that is ridiculously cute? Oh, Koma 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 Bear is awesome in its own right, but the Sleepy Princess is just like, it is awesome. It's just awesome. Like I watched the first episode. Finally, I found it, and then just ran up to like episode 5 just within a few days, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And it's it's another one of those Sweetness and Lightning kind of thing, where it's you cute princess, odd circumstances, but just so incredibly amusing, so cute to see the reactions of all the characters, and so very interesting to see at least from her perspective, it looks like this inadvertent demon that she is. It's totally legit that people are asking, like, is she a demon? Because she just does these she just does these things where it's just like she wants sheets on her bed, so she like kills a ghost guy and makes it. She's like, I don't need the face and hands, so she basically like cuts this ghost dude up with giant scissors to get sheets. And people are just like horrified. They're like, what'd you do? It's like, and it's all that. It's just all that kind of stuff where it's like, oh my goodness, I have really been enjoying that. The Kamitachi, the one where he's by the grace of the gods, he's raising slimes. I'm still enjoying that. It's just it's a really slow burn.
Fair.
I mean, they're even, and I hesitate to say even when they're trying to make it more dramatic, because they made the show, so whoever made it could have made it more dramatic, and it isn't.
Okay.
Some nice learning, some kids are moving on, they're kind of growing in their experiences, and the adults are very oddly permissive of them. In a world where most adults would be like, you've got magic, then you need to do this, this, and this, or this happens. No, they're all like, oh, you're doing so good. Oh, thank you for your help. Oh, you're so wonderful. Can you train our daughter? Oh, that'd be great. Live with us. We'll feed you. It's like, wow. Okay.
With no exceptions of like, this is all wonderful, great. Feed my dog. Teach my daughter to magic, and please don't burn the house down. None of that.
No, and nothing like, it would be kind of nice if there was like, oh, train our daughter to how to do this, and by the way, you can't leave. You know what I mean? Be like, I would love there to be like that twist. To be like, oh, you guys are so good to what? Yeah, you can't leave because now we need all of your mana. to make her more powerful. And by the way, that's gonna kill you. I would, like I'm waiting for that, like drama. Like no, it just sort of burns along slow. Like okay, thanks guys.
Do you get the sense there's going to be a twist?
No, not at all. It is all going to be this very sweet, gentle ride, and it lacks the healing element of Yuru Camp or Nononbyori, so that I don't feel as rejuvenated by the end of an episode that I would from those. But it fills the time effectively. I'm enjoying watching this kid whose taming capacity is slimes. It's not wolves, it's not giant demons, it's just slimes. And that's a thing. And it goes along. It's nice.
Okay.
The one that we talked about that was sort of vaguely like the Magnificent Kotobuki, the Senyoku no Siegfrieda.
I'm getting that one. I'm remembering that one.
That's the one where you've got the Valkyries come to Earth to save Earth, and they fly these vintage aircraft.
Yeah.
Meh. It just keeps being meh.
Okay.
Which is, it's interesting. I enjoy watching the animation of the aircraft.
Okay.
And how the aircraft are doing their thing. The plot is just... It really feels like plot is sort of secondary to the planes and the fighting the weird pillar things. It's like that seems to be where the money is.
Okay.
Planes, the fight scenes, the flying around, and the rest of it is just kind of, it's conveniently there to, give a reason that there's people inside the planes.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
All right. Cool. Strike Witches, interesting. The Road to Berlin this next season, they've incorporated more CGI than they have in prior Strike Witches. And it's not that it's a jarring transition, but it is an interesting transition because you'll have one moment where you'll see some of the characters standing in front of the hangar talking, and then somebody will go get in their striker unit and they'll come out of the hangar, and the drawn characters are not in the same kind of movement and sort of reference as the person flying by on their striker unit. That's very obviously CGI. Color palette is completely spot on.
Cool.
So you don't see a jarring difference between the drawn and the CGI for color palette, but just the physical movement and the modeling for the CGI. And, I'm guessing what this is going to be when you're making this series. So my guess is you're doing this on purpose to give the action sequence that 3D sort of realism versus dialogue sequences and people doing stuff around. You're not looking for that same sort of depth of character models. But it's Strike Witches. I love Strike Witches. I can watch that all day, just like Girls in Panzer. So,
Fair.
So I'm watching all these things, and then the other issues of this week have been somewhat distracting.
Really?
Just a little bit. Something happened. This week.
There was a
sure
thing,
exactly what it was.
and that thing just drug out for a while. So that just, that was, there you go. So that was this week.
Yep.
How about you?
Speaking of, I wanted to see if I can pull in, because I have, let's see here, I have the drawing reference. That was for another thing, so I can actually pull that in. I'd have to screen. Here, can I do a window capture 2? That might work. Apparently it won't, because it's not showing up. I came across some fan art, which I wanted to share with you guys because I had some fun stuff, but I unfortunately can't do that easily here. I may have to just download. Maybe I'll just download it. That's easier.
Is this an after 10 o'clock fan art?
No, it's not. It is quite the opposite, in fact, which is one of the reasons I liked it so much. Although the artists themselves, when I was like, "Oh, this is cute," let me go on their. Oh, all right. Scrolling down, it's like,
is it fan art of Renge from Nononbyori? Oh, Renge is so cool. Or Kana from Dragon Maid. Oh, so cute. Or Maple from Bofuri, also so very cute.
Let's see here. Okay, so what we will do, I want to show everyone this. This will be showing up on the Twitter here sometime soon. because I just liked it so much. I wanted folks to kind of see it. So I'll just switch back over to this view. So a little bit of fan art mashing up two anime work that I happen to love a lot in a rather odd way, but I quite like this whole idea. And so that is all the characters, that is characters from Yuru Camp in the World of Girls Last Tour. All in there, which is rather cute, I thought.
Oh, that is awesome.
And this was
Kettenkrad.
exactly. And in a similar vein, he also did this piece, which is all them around a fire, enjoying, just hanging out as you do.
Some hot pot.
Exactly.
Or Odin or something.
Mm-hmm. So just enjoyed that a lot.
Love that.
And love this guy's style.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and what's funny is this artist. I'd say I have no idea. Their style is actually more realistic than this in general. This appears to be just I'm going to try to capture that visual style, which is kind of interesting. And then there's other artworks on here as well, featuring girls wearing certain amounts of clothing. But anyway, that's Pixit for you. So,
the internet strikes again.
Exactly. In terms of anime, I have not been watching too much this week. Arcadia of My Youth, and then a few more episodes of Kuma 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 Bear. Just great fun. I was surprised that it's a little. I did not realize going into it that it was going to be an isekai. I thought there was just she's just in a video game and hanging out there. So that was a shocker. But like you said, just very light and easy.
Yeah.
While having just enough, character interactions and just enough. Oh, where is this going? I wonder where it's going to be. Not just complete sugar.
Well, it is interesting that you mentioned that because her transition to isekai land is sort of a non-event.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like most of the time it's, what happened? Where am I? Or I'm here now and I have a thing to do and then I'll go home.
Yep.
And it's like, nope, she's just chilling out. She's her
With her
killer bear puppets.
Yeah.
Bear puppets of doom.
Which, I mean, quite honestly, if I was trapped in an isekai and had the same, I'd be all over that. I'm not going home. I got bear puppets, I got a bear house, and I got all kinds of things going on. Like,
you have a little girl?
No. That would be a little creepier for me. But, when you have the bare necessities, you don't really need more than that.
Do y'all hear that?
We had to go.
Wow. Okay.
I'm getting a little delayed.
And welcome everyone to the latest anime news for the week ending November 7th, 2020. Let's get into it. Starting with some retro stuff. Bandai Namco Arts announced on Monday it'll be producing an anime adaptation of Getter Robo Arc, the last manga in Ken Ishikawa's iconic Getter Robo Super Robot manga series. Bandai also began streaming a promo video for the new anime featuring Heat 2021, a new version of the opening theme to the 1998 Getter Robo Armageddon anime. This new one set to debut sometime in 2021 with Jun Kawagoe returning from previous Getter Robo series to direct the anime at B Media. And I quote, "The manga's story centers on the conflict against the Andromeda country, the new enemy of humanity that seeks to destroy the source of the Getter rays that has devastated its civilization. Hope rests on the titular Getter Robo Arc robot, but the appearance of another mysterious Getter robot, piloted by the son of Ryoma Nagare, introduces another complication to the conflict," end quote. The manga began in Futabasha's Super Robot magazine in 2002 and remains unfinished since Ishikawa's sad death in 2006. The original Getter Robo manga, written by Ishikawa and Go Nagai, ran from 74 to 75 and inspired 3 direct sequels, as well as numerous spin-off manga and anime adaptations. So that's right, we are getting some classic Super Robot mecha works coming in the new year, which is pretty exciting.
Indeed.
So I can't say as I know of Getter Robo, but I don't think I've ever followed any of Getter Robo.
Yeah.
I watched Get a Robo a little bit along the same time that I was watching Shogun Warriors. So I have a little kind of like just a harking back to my youth of going, oh, Get a Robo. So I'll probably bite into it. It looks like something that I'll probably enjoy.
I'm gonna wait for y'all to tell me that it's good, and then I'll.
This was the first combiner giant robot, for those curious.
Oh, okay.
So it introduced the idea of multiple vehicles that all combine into the giant robot by basically morphing into it. I have a lot of fun with that. It's one of the things in my History of Mecha panels where I show the transformation sequence because it's literally just like Play-Doh getting mashed together to make a giant robot. But, what can you do? So cool, yeah, new and all right, on to the new anime announcements, because there's a fair number. Fuji TV held its Fuji TV Anime Lineup Unveiling 2020 live stream this week and revealed 2 new upcoming anime series, both based on properties from all the way back in the 90s. The new Cestus, the Roman fighter anime, is based on Shijuya Wazarai's manga Kento and Koku Den Cestus and its sequel Kendo Shito Den Cestus, and is set to premiere in April of 2021. The original manga ran from 97 to 09, totaling 15 volumes. Second series began in 2010 and is still ongoing, 9 volumes so far. The story takes place, the original one, in the height of the Roman Empire and follows Cestus, a slave boy who's placed in a school that trains boxers to fight in a Colosseum. Bandai Namco Pictures is producing with CG by Logic and Magic and guidance from professional boxer Yoshihiro Kamagai for the boxing scenes. Fuji TV also announced their new Nighthead 2041 anime series based on the live-action Nighthead drama series from 1992. The original story told the story of a pair of psychic brothers on the right side of the key image who were persecuted by the world and on the run. The new anime series will star a new pair of brothers, the left side of the key image, who are members of the National Security Force and tracking down the brothers from the original, which is kind of a neat idea. George Ida, the director of the original live action, is writing the new anime, which is set to debut in July. The original drama aired from 92 to 93 and previously inspired the 24-episode Nighthead Genesis anime series in 2006 and a manga adaptation in 2007. I will admit I have no exposure to these. I've not seen any of these back in the past, but that's it's really cool seeing folks going back to the well.
It's funky because I know nothing of this.
Yeah, I know nothing of Nighthead, and that seems like something I probably should have known about, but I just don't. I know nothing about it. The boxing one seems interesting. I don't know anything about that either. But
yeah. I am.
It's gonna be Megalobox but Roman.
Probably. Definitely looks Megaloboxian, art style wise. It looks like it also might be CGI, like all CGI.
Like total CGI. Oh.
Based on that cover image looks like CGI. That thing. So I don't know. We will definitely find out at some point. All right, moving on. The Zuto Oen Project 2011 plus 10 was created in remembrance of the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami 10 years ago and aims to promote the Miyagi, Fukushima, and Iwate prefectures. This week they announced 3 new anime, 1 TV series, and 2 films, each set in one of the featured prefectures. Bakuten, or Backflip, an original TV anime about a high school rhythm gymnastics team, will also air on Fuji TV next April with production by Zex. The series is set in Miyagi Prefecture's Iwanuma City. The protagonist becomes fascinated with gymnastics in his last year of middle school and joins the rhythm gymnastics team at his new high school, where he befriends, guess what, a schoolmate who was a famous gymnast back in middle school. I'm sure there'll be no drama there. Taking place in Fukushima is the original film Hula Fula Dance, set at the real-life spa resort Hawaiians Hotel in Iwaki City, Fukushima. The story centers on Hiwa Natsunagi, a novice hula dancer who still takes a hula dancer job at the hotel and on her relationships with her colleagues. The film's set to open in early summer. Shinya Watada of Gundam Build Divers and Re-Rise will direct the animated Bandai Namco Pictures, with Seiji Mizushima of Full Metal Alchemist and Gundam 00 as supervising director. FMA's composer Michiru Oshima is also composing the music, and Reiko Yoshida of K-On! And Violet Evergarden is writing the script.
Wow.
Reiko Yoshida is also putting the script for the film set in Iwate, an adaptation of Sachiko Kashiwaba's novel Misaki no Mayoiga, or The Abandoned House by the Cape. That'll be produced by David Production, with direction by Nanan Biori's Shinya Kawatsura, and debut sometime in 2021. The story centers around a traditional Japanese house named Mayoiga, after the Japanese folklore concept of an abandoned but well-kept home, where one can see the sea and feel the touch of warmth and nostalgia, as they describe it. And in this place, a 17-year-old girl begins a new life with people unrelated to her and searches for her place in the world. Original novel was released in 2015 and won the 2016 NOMA Award for juvenile fiction. So, obviously, coming out of a heavy, origin, but definitely three concepts that I'd say all three of these caught my eye.
I'm not sure the rhythm gymnastics one, backflip, got me so much, but I certainly think the hula dance. I think that one could be pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously this film, what was it? Where the heck did I just hit?
Yeah, Misaki no Mayoiga.
Yeah, Mayoiga.
Mm-hmm.
That one I definitely would like to say.
Mm-hmm.
So hula and the well-respected, loved house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that they're putting a lot behind the hula dance one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see it. I mean, looks. I think it's different enough for me that I'd be interested in seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
The well-loved house concept is something that I see when I go on streaming services and I watch a lot of different like Asian TV shows. There are a lot of shows like that on there, and they're really just kind of nice to watch. They can be sad sometimes; they're happy. It kind of depends on what the script says. But it's a very interesting idea that there's this house that is literally in the middle of nowhere, and somebody somehow is taking care of it, and then people kind of gravitate around it, and it's this idea of lives. Of just intersecting lives. So basically, if you just want a good slice of life type of thing, that's that.
Yeah.
But the first one, rhythmic gymnastics, two guys doing rhythmic gymnastics. I'll take a pass.
Yeah, no, I think it's just an interesting, premise for an anime, and seeing how they execute on that. I'm very curious. Definitely not the typical anime idea. Although there was a rhythm gymnastics anime. A year or two ago, I think.
Gymnastics or rhythm gymnastics?
I think rhythm, but
is it rhythm?
It was
the one with the ribbons? Is that rhythm gymnastics?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I could not tell you.
I was like, because I've certainly never heard of a hula dancing
True
anime before.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen ones that have like, was it Golden Time? Featured a university dance team that did traditional Japanese dances, and I've seen, so I've seen dance stuff show up, their stuff. But
Okozen.
There you go. And it's like, but I've not seen a hula dance one.
Yeah. Curious. Yeah, it is funny kind of seeing the transition through all of these. It's like, oh, okay, gymnastics, cute. Oh, okay, hula dance, cute. A 17-year-old beginning a new life with people unrelated to her. This is. I hope this is fun.
It'll be a story of learning and growth and spiritual awareness, and hopefully not like crazy monsters that upkeep the house and murder humans to keep it refreshed with their blood. I hope not.
Unlikely.
Or do I hope? I mean, that could be interesting too.
Absolutely. Let's see here. We're not done yet. The Wow Wow channel also announced 2 upcoming anime this week. The first is an adaptation of Rieko Hinata and Akihiro Yamada's fantasy novel series Hikari no O, or The Firecatcher Lord. The story of the novel series is set in the chaotic aftermath of humanity's last war. Because of a weapon used during the last war, humans spontaneously burst into flame when close to the smallest amount of fire. Yeah, that seems like a drawback.
We're just talking about.
The only safe energy source lies in the bodies of creatures called flamelings. These flamelings live in the great forest that now covers the world, and the duty of hunting them falls to the firecatchers who brave its depths. Author Hinata debuted the first novel back in December of 2018, illustrations by Yamada, so pretty recent work there. WoW also revealed that a new feature-length anime work will be created to celebrate the network's 30th anniversary. Anime director Kenji Kamiyama, that's right, Ghost in the Shell standalone complex Kenji Kamiyama, will be producing the anime at Craftar, and it'll air on WoW sometime in 2022. So a little ways to wait. Kamiyama will both direct and write the anime, which he describes as a, quote, socially conscious youth crime adventure story, end quote. I'm intrigued. This is the guy behind Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, Eden of the East, the 2019 Ultraman, and Ghost in the Shell SAC 2045 alongside Shinji Aramaki. So, yeah, what on earth is that going to be?
Jesus.
Huh. Well, socially conscious youth crime adventure story. Huh. What kind of youth crimes do you think they're featuring? Bicycle theft?
Right,
That's
yeah.
probably gonna
Bicycle theft,
probably.
theft, or cleaning the needle before you use it. I
mean, what youth crime are we talking? Are we talking middle school youth crime? Are we talking high school youth crime? Cheating on the test in biology, or are we talking like hardcore gang activity? I mean, what kind of youth crime are we talking about?
Yeah.
Or is this going to be Detective Conan?
Right.
Where it's youth crime, where it's like
Right.
a 5-year-old kid is a genius. Bless you.
Yeah.
Again. A 5-year-old is a crime solving genius that goes around in a baby stroller or something. I don't know. Is that again?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, knowing Kamiyama, it's, he's going to come up with something interesting. I think,
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. I'm intrigued because it's relatively taboo in Japanese media that I've seen to really talk about modern youth violence.
Right.
It just doesn't come up much. So I'm curious what direction he's going to take, or if they're all going to be 1970s kid gangs with the big pompadour hairstyles. I don't know.
Well, I mean, what was it? Was it Iwate Westgate Park or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Talking about like street gang crime and whatever else.
True.
So taboo subjects are probably going to be a fairly decently mined subject, I guess, from going here on out.
I guess.
If it adds new freshness to things, sure.
Sure, why not? Meanwhile, oops, not that one. What happened? Everything got switched around. Excuse me. Another week, another record-breaking achievement for the Demon Slayer Mugen Train film. As of Sunday, it now ranks 10 among all movies to ever open in Japan after 17 days at the box office. It took this spot from James Cameron's Avatar, passing its gross earnings of 15.6 billion yen. Mugen Train makes the 5th anime film in the top 10. Number 1 on the list, unsurprisingly, is still Spirited Away. Your Name falls at number 4, Howl's Moving Castle at 6, Mononoke at 7, Ponyo and Wuthering with You are 12 and 13. The film opened on October 16th and has both the highest global opening on that weekend and quickly became the fastest film to earn 10 billion yen in only 10 days. The film was also the 15th most watched film in Japan, just behind King Kong vs. Godzilla. Gotta say it.
Oh my goodness.
What can I say? I mean, my gosh, this film.
Well, you can go online now and buy a Tamagotchi.
It's true.
I just saw this. Was it yesterday? This morning? That you can go online and get a moving train Tamagotchi with which to take care of, feed, and whatever it is that you do with that. So clearly, the merch is coming.
Oh yeah.
How winter is coming, the merch is coming.
The merch is coming.
So,
Well, the merch has always been
it.
there. I mean, the series has generated a fair amount of figures and all kinds of merch. But
And let's be honest. I mean,
wow,
Nezuko is a pretty perfect subject for Tamagotchi. That's pretty brilliant. But yeah.
Good Lord, I wish, even if I only had $1 invested in this movie, I'd be happy with my returns. Jeez.
Yeah. Totally.
Jeez Louise.
If somebody last year had told you so, a shonen anime is going to outperform Avatar in 17 days, you'd be like, wow, Miyazaki's going to go do really well. The hell?
I would have laughed and then I would have cried because of how wrong I was.
Yeah.
Well, if they had followed it up with, "Would you like to be an investor?"
Right.
I would have spent $5. Now, if they said 5,000, I probably would have laughed and then been crying.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's not a One Piece movie, right? It's this. It's bizarre. So definitely
The
gonna have
right
to check
movie at the right place at the right time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
We all know that a good musical score can really make an anime, or any other media for that matter. And this week, Japan's government has officially agreed. On Wednesday, the Japanese government announced the recipients of this year's Person of Cultural Merit honor. Included in the 20 recipients is composer Shigeaki Saigusa, who, as well as all kinds of modern classical music, also composed for several anime series. Saigusa is probably best known for the scores from Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack, Zeta Gundam, and Double Zeta Gundam. He also composed music for Amon Saga, Eyes of Mars, and Catnapped the Movie. A few other anime and manga creators have received the honor in the past. Leiji Matsumoto of Harlock and Galaxy Express was given the honor in 2001, and Shigeru Mizuki of Gekigei no Kitaro received it in 2010, and of course Hayao Miyazaki in 2012. Last year's Person of Cultural Merit honored prolific manga creator Moto Hagio, as well as Shigeru Miyamoto of Nintendo. Always nice seeing anime folks honored for that. I'm gonna have to go back and watch Eyes of Mars now, because I had no idea. So Eyes of Mars is an anime film conceived and financed by a New Age cult in Japan.
Oh.
It is a science fiction movie
Huh.
about a commune where, girls are taught to focus on crystals and, develop their aura and all that in the midst of an apocalyptic 80s science fiction anime film. It's a trip.
All right.
It aired on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the day. It was one of the movies in their rotation. It was released on VHS, and I believe that is it in America. It was not a big thing. But gosh, the composer of Zeta Gundam worked on that, which is pretty cool. And for those who don't know, the Zeta Gundam soundtrack is pretty well known for being one of the first anime soundtracks to feature a full symphonic score in the way we think of it today, where other anime series had used symphonies and so forth, but this sounds like Star Wars. It sounds like a full symphony thing. There's,
So we're talking like a 70 to 80 piece.
Yeah.
Symphony, probably. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And it's
a big noise.
And it's like 4 albums, of soundtrack. There's repeated themes and all that kind of stuff going through it. So it was a very impressive work for the time.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous soundtrack. It has one of those. It was made in the early '80s. There's a little bit of disco in there, right? Like it's very much a product of its time. It's like, okay, this is a little weird. A lot of that music is just gorgeous.
Hopefully it makes it more charming than, like, disturbing.
I think so. See if we get the right one. Not that one. Let's try that one. There we go. There is too much anime merchandise to cover everything in the news, but we try to touch on things that are really special or downright hilarious, and this last main story is definitely something special. In celebration of the 25th anniversary of Studio Ghibli's Whisper of the Heart, Acorn Republic is releasing a line of products based on the antiques in Shiro Nishi's World Emporium, the antique store where the film's main characters meet and share some precious memories. If you look closely at the picture of the items, you'll see a recreation of the cat statuette called the Baron, which first caught Shizuku's eye when she visited the shop. The statue features artificial green tiger's eye gemstones as the eyes, giving it that special luxurious finish from the anime. Also available is a replica of the shop's beautiful grandfather clock, reimagined here as a table clock, with the Dwarf King on the dial, and the other decorations were created in fine detail. The Dwarf King and Elf Princess are also featured on the dial of a new wristwatch for those who want more portability. The full range of merchandise is available on Acorn Republic's online store, but only until stock runs out. The 95 film adapted Aoi Hiragi's original manga of the same name. A live-action sequel film set 10 years after the original had been set to debut in September, but was delayed due to COVID-19. And the Studio Ghibli film The Cat Returns serves as a quasi-sequel to it. Where is my wallet?
Wow. I only have so much money.
I know.
It's gonna take all the monies, damn it, all the monies.
All the monies. Jeez. Oh, I'm gonna have to rob a bank.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
The last time didn't go so well.
You only just got out of the Stony Lonesome.
Mm-hmm. I am trying right now as I speak this, because I didn't get a chance ahead of time, to find this store, because unfortunately there are a lot of acorns out on there. That's not it. Because I want to know. Like, I really want to know.
What did we learn?
Yeah, exactly. Not that.
Well, I found
owning
Acorn
the Baron?
Republic shop
Mm-hmm.
in Yokohamashi in Kanagawa.
Okay.
It's a combined
wait.
shop, but
So
it's
that
not
could be it.
It's not a website.
They said it's available on their online store. I mean, it could well be all Japanese. Okay, we will have to do more research at some other point to hopefully find this. Well, actually, I know. That is one of my favorite works of all time. That is a thing that I really, 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 really.
Yeah, as we're all
really
now
care
looking.
About. Yeah, we're all looking at this right now. We're all looking. You can visit their online store here. It is in the ANN listing. One moment, please. Stand by as I pull this up. There it. Okay, that's about as much as I thought it would be. If you want to own a copy of the Baron, it will set you back 18,000 yen. So about $200.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. The clock is 17,000
yen.
Yen. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you did the one and then the conversion of dollars and 17,000 like a flash in my head.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
They have gorgeous bookends. Oh, those bookends.
Oh, jeez.
Ooh, this is nice. This is a nice set of merch. I am hats off to you all for making these. They have a little diorama of the barn and all that stuff, and yeah.
Where'd you find? Where is this now? Where is this magical place?
If you, I googled Whisper of the Heart merchandise.
Oh,
and
because I
then
just did Google Acorn Republic.
and then found the Anime News Network article from that search, and the ANN article at the bottom says you can go to their online store here. So that the funny thing is, I see the wait a minute, wait, hold on, hold the phone. There is another statue of the Baron for 5,800 yen.
Oh, it's a miniature.
Oh, yeah, clearly. It's probably like, okay, yeah, it's,
Yeah.
which is
tiny.
Yeah, it's definitely not to that scale. But, if you wanted a statue, because they also have the girl cat statues. And that was the other thing I was like, ooh, I would like a pair, please. PAR, not the fruit. Yeah, sure enough.
This is making me hungry. I wish
Exactly,
I had a pair.
yes.
Okay.
So,
Random?
I try not to buy lots of anime merch, but that is a thing that I could totally see myself splurging on.
Just kill me now.
I know. Oh, that Baron. They know how to do it. They know exactly how to reach into our little otaku wallets and just pull the money right out. It's impressive.
Drag it out of it.
Impressive work. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, also this week, other news stories I wanted to mention. We can certainly dig into if we want to, but otherwise we can just kind of mention and move on. The Tsuki no Talent production, or Tsuki Pro franchise, announced this week a spin-off TV animes in the works for its Vazzy and Rock Down groups. Vaz Rock the Animation will debut in 2022 and feature two 6-member groups, which both began with CD releases in 2018. The franchise also includes 2 seasons of Tsuki Yuta the Animation, which centers on singing anthropomorphized months. I'm moving on. Liber Entertainment's Q Idol Training smartphone game is also inspiring an anime adaptation for its first anniversary. Yumeta Company and Graphinica will produce the anime. The app was only launched in October 2019, where you are the role of a manager at a small voice acting agency, managing 16 aspiring idols. Boy, haven't seen that one before. The last anime announced this week is a 2-episode mini-anime based on Moto Kuromura's manga, The Hero King, reincarnated to master martial arts, thus becoming the world's strongest female knight in training. Based on Hayaken's novel series of the same name, the manga centers on the elderly Hero King Inglis. Before death, he wishes to live freely in the next life and master martial arts, and is reincarnated in the distant future as the daughter of a legendary knight family. It is described as a transsexual fantasy manga. The anime's first episode aired today. The second will come out next week on the 14th. Bandai Spirits is hosting the Tamashii Nation 2020 Figure Museum virtual event this weekend. The event features almost 1,000 figures from various franchises such as Kamen Rider, Ultraman, Gundam, and Demon Slayer. Gotta get on that train. It includes a VR exhibition hall, a 360-degree panorama of figures, and video streams for new product announcements, which makes sense. Anime Japan announced on Monday that Anime Japan 2021, set for March 27th through March 30th, will be a combination online and in-person event. The public days will be held on March 27th and 28th, with events both in-person at Tokyo Big Sight and online. The in-person part of the event will feature merch sales, exhibition booths, and 40 stage events across the 2 days. The online part will stream the stage events and show the exhibition booths, and will also host a Work You Want animated ranking poll. That will be divisive at all. The show's business days will be held March 29th and 30th online only. These days allow buyers and licensors to have business discussions with anime staff representatives, and will also feature seminars and exhibitor introductions. Finally, this week's issue of Kodansha's Nakayoshi magazine announced that Hiroyuki Takei's Shaman King manga is inspiring a shoujo manga spin-off. Titled Shaman King and a Garden, The new manga will debut in the magazine December 1st. Takei is credited with the original work, with Jet Kusamura organizing the manga and Kyo Nuisawa drawing it. The manga will share the pasts of characters Kana, Matilda, and Marion from the original manga, which debuted back in '98 and inspired several other manga spin-offs and TV anime. So, kind of a neat idea for a spin-off, I thought.
I miss Shaman King.
Yeah.
I liked it. I only got to watch it once. I haven't had a chance to go back to it, but I watched it when it was aired, and liked it. I mean, it wasn't anything great or special. It was just fun and a different style of animation.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think I ever saw it once.
Also,
I heard the name.
Yeah. Also, a fairly shocking anime. I mean, spoiler alert: the main character's best friend gets vivisected, like in episode 3. He's fine, but yeah, it's
fine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's just a thing. It's anime.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. It's
Basically,
wow.
It's
I can see right into you there. That's that must be uncomfortable.
It's the power of friendship.
Yes. Pretty much. Yeah. It's
Stuff your friendship. Get some thread and a needle. Sew me back up.
But yeah, absolutely, it's a fun franchise. Cool. Yeah. I think that's all the manga. That's all the news for this week. So thank you all for watching. See you next week. Cool. That is that. Let's see what else we want to talk about today. Well, actually, there was history this week.
Aha.
Yes, there was history. There's also future history this week.
Future history.
Future history. Let's talk about that real quick. Welcome, everyone, to This Week in Anime History, where I talk about things that happened this week in anime history, beginning back in 1928 with the birth of Osamu Tezuka, godfather of manga and anime, technically. Obviously, manga and animation existed before him, but Tezuka is credited for creating manga because, as we know today, a lot of the genres, a lot of the concepts were inspired by a lot of his works. Creator of Astro Boy and Dororo and a number of other very influential manga works. So thank you, Tezuka, for the many things you've given us. Then a few years later, saw the birth of Yoshiki Tomino, creator of Mobile Suit Gundam, as well as a number of other works like King Gainer. King of Gainer. You'll know if you've ever seen it. He's an incredibly prolific creator, really. A lot of anime over the past decades. Obviously, Gundam, his best known work, but done a lot of other stuff and other things. So, and still with us, still talking, still debating the relative merits of anime. Still out there, very much involved in the world, which is very lovely to see. And then finally, a bit of future history. November 6th, 2022. Sword Art Online goes into public launch, and the public is able to now use Sword Art Online, and everything goes well. That's all the news for this week. Thank you for watching. See you all next week. So, in the anime series, they say, November 6th, 2022 is when it all starts.
Wow. I don't think we're anywhere even close to Nerve Gear.
Yeah.
The Oculus Rift seems kind of neat and all that, but there's no Nerve Gear.
Yeah. We're also quite a ways away from a single creator being able to create a death trap in a massively multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Seems kind of difficult. Just saying.
Right now, we're still stuck at the point where it's a single creator creating a money trap,
right?
With microtransactions in massive multiplayer games.
Yeah. Yeah. Although even there,
I'll just stick to my DOS version of Civ. What I'm good at, man.
There we go.
To hear
Build
tag
City.
Build City, awesome.
Totally. Let me tell you about something I like, which actually ties in to some of the stuff we've been talking about tonight. I want to talk about an anime that I love. This is Interstellar 5555, the story of the Secret Star System, which is a feature-length music video set to Daft Punk's Discovery album. And you've probably seen clips of this, this group rocking out in very Leiji Matsumoto style, because here's the thing. Daft Punk released their album, and then, I think a few years later, suddenly, this video appeared, like, out of nowhere. And it was basically this video, is anime music video, literally anime set to the song, One More Time. And it just dropped. Like, oh yeah, we got Leiji Matsumoto to do this, which was really cool. And then they did another one. And for the next track on the album, they dropped another music video, which fit into the thing and told a little bit more of a story. And then they did another one, which tells more story about this young soldier out in space who hears this distress call and goes after it. And then this actually happened. Leiji Matsumoto announced to the press, oh, by the way, I'm going to Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival, with a feature-length animated film. FYI. And he showed up having made a complete film that is just the album of this one Daft Punk album set to animation that tells this whole story all the way through. It is amazing. It is about the music industry. It is about fame. It's about science fiction. There are a bunch of fun little Easter eggs there for Leiji Matsumoto fans, particularly when the characters, I probably will not be able to show all of this stuff. But it's an amazing experience because there's just all sorts of plot, like things happen. It is actually telling a full-scale story all the way through. It's goofy as heck, and it's great. It is just throwing things together and just having a grand old time of it. So, yeah. Harlock, I'm sorry, Interstellar 5555, not Harlock. It's probably Interstellar 4/5s, actually, now that I think about it. It's a Daft Punk album set to classic anime that is like made for the songs. It's nuts. And great fun. You can find it on DVD. I'm sure. Actually, I'm not sure it's available streaming. It might be very difficult to license that given all of the Daft Punk music in it. But it has been released over here in America, and you can get it and experience what it is like to see a Daft Punk album with blue Leiji Matsumoto people in it.
I ran into it like this week. I was kicking around YouTube and I ran into like parts of it.
Oh, nice! Yeah,
So it's all over YouTube.
Yeah, it's in parts all over YouTube
Yeah.
with especially Stronger, Harder, Faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea what that. Like I was telling Steve, I had no idea what the hell I was looking at. I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah, and as we were talking before we went on, I first saw this on Adult Swim years ago.
Yeah.
Years ago, and they did the Harder, Faster, Stronger song, and they put that on there as the A/B bump between shows. There was that one, and then another one, and they brought on One More Time, also as a bump as well. And John, just like you, I had no idea what I was looking at. I was like, okay, I know this is Daft Punk, but someone did an A and B to this, and then I looked it up, and it's like. It's a movie? What? Because I love Daft Punk. I have all their albums, the whole 9 yards. So anyway, but I didn't know anything about this, and so I just watched it, and I was just like going, guys from Harlock, that she's from that, he's from that, and I'm just like watching this whole thing, and of course the whole time, after you stop, and just a warning, folks, if you watch this, do watch it. It's great, it's fun, and it's great music. But one more time is going to be stuck in your freaking head for the next 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you. Hope you love the song, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. It is Baby Shark level.
It's a mind worm.
Yeah.
It's a good song. But
Well, and apparently, and I'm probably going to get some parts of the story wrong, this is what I heard, they got some contact with some animation studio in Japan to work to do something on this, and they said basically, and they were asked like, what style do you want? What kind of stuff do you want to do? And they said, we grew up watching, anime from the 70s, and Galaxy Express and Harlock and so forth, and so we want that kind of thing. And apparently, the Japanese staff said, "Oh, you want Leiji Matsumoto," and called him up. And said,
that's awesome.
Do you want to work on this thing? And he called back, and so, the staff called back and said, so yes, we have Leiji Matsumoto. They're like, you what? You got what? Awesome,
Oh
but
my God.
Sometimes dreams do come true.
Yeah, exactly.
No, really.
Weird.
That is awesome.
Because you would have think Leiji Matsumoto, he would have picked up the phone and been like, "You what?"
Exactly.
Nope.
Right?
Yeah, he was game. They were game.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want the extended warranty on my car. Click.
Exactly. Totally. Well, I have a question.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Brent?
I love that because no one has any idea what that is a reference to. Boy, I have not learned that Demon Slayer is popular because we've learned that every single week.
Yeah. We're going to keep learning that, I think.
Jeez. I have learned that anime is still going strong. They're still coming out with new ideas. There's still new anime coming out. There's still plenty of life left in that old girl. I've learned that for all my minimalism, for all of my, saving money, for all of that, all I needed to do was see Whisper of the Heart replicas, and I was like, wallet, where, credit card, here, please, thank you.
Acorn Relic Shop.
Acorn Relic Shop. Oh.
Yeah. The Japanese are brilliant at their merchandising. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you see there was a little Baron cup ramen topper?
Oh.
I'm like, oh, you genius! Everything's merchandisable. Oh my.
Yeah.
Is there Totoro toilet paper? Just sign me up.
Probably.
Just sign me up.
Why not?
I got my Hello Kitty toilet paper. Now it's time for Totoro. We're ready to go.
I have learned that I'm going to have to rob so many more banks to purchase all this stuff. There's not enough money in the world for merch, anime merch, and this was just like a knife in my stomach, just to be like, knowing all that merch is out there, and you're just like, please, just please, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I also learned that Captain Harlock is a fun-loving guy, likes to party.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Spuds McKenzie are friends.
Yeah.
And so Arcadia of My Youth is a very, very interesting watch, and you know what, Arcadia. I learned that Arcadia, My Youth, is probably something you should not show to your flat earther friend because of the lack of physics in that movie.
Yeah.
So just it's a good movie to watch. Just don't show it.
Yeah, true.
And I've learned that it is foretold, it has been slated in the stars that apparently if the movie train ever comes to the United States to a theater, even during COVID, where you have to sit in a reduced populated theater, apparently it has been slated that I am going to have to sit my butt in one of these seats and watch this thing because it's just too much. Too much not to.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been slapped in the face with this thing for like the past 3 weeks.
Exactly.
It's just like, I almost feel like screaming enough already. I'll buy the ticket.
Fine, I'm buying the advance ticket right now.
Right now, just tell me where to go. I'll go.
And I was thinking, Steve, when you said it was like a knife in the stomach, after having watched Vampire Hunter D, it wasn't like a knife in the eye. It's like a knife in the eye. Well, I learned that Harlock there's now good reason that I have to go back and rewatch the first 7 episodes and then finish watching all 42 because I think I'm going to get a lot more out of the totality of that than I can just in this standalone with Arcadia of My Youth.
Yeah. And you get another tragic little girl.
Yay. Maria? Marie? Is it
Marie,
the
I
little
think.
blue-haired creepy girl?
Yeah. That's the one.
That was the mistaken Harlock film I watched.
Yeah.
Where he goes back to Earth and he picks this little girl up from the orphanage. And I'm like, who is this? What does any of this got to do with anything?
You will watch the TV series and you will still have that question.
But at least it might now fill in
Exactly,
somewhere,
yes.
because otherwise it's like, Harlock, he comes back to Earth that obviously isn't like totally devastated, and the ship wants him to go visit a little girl in an orphanage. I'm like, that's kind of a random thing for the ship to want to do, isn't it? The ship wants to go get Hardee's or like Dairy Queen. Like, just go with the ship wherever it wants to do. That's fine. And I learned that I didn't realize before, but I have an interest in watching a hula anime.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I never knew. Not so much rhythm gymnastics, but certainly watching the hula about a Hawaiian resort in Japan where they have hula. So I definitely learned that that's going to be a thing, and then obviously that my advance reservation for Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie, is going to probably have to happen at some point.
Yeah. Definitely. We'll have to all watch together. And
we'll find a good socially distant metroplex somewhere in the BWI region.
Yep. We'll make it happen. Cool. Thank you all so much for joining us. As always, it's a lot of fun. And we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Johnny.
See ya.
Sayonara. D. 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 D.
That took me a minute. It really took me a minute. Oh, that is great.
Concentrating